Oh, that is so interesting. Now, Jake, you're just making me feel bad. No, I mean, I follow him on Twitter. I think he follows me on Twitter. I don't really keep in touch with him. A year of my own show has been absolutely unbelievable. Not something I thought would happen. I mean, always an aim, but not necessarily something I thought would happen, and certainly not this soon. So I'm having to figure out what to aim for next. I feel like I've reached my targets, but it's been amazing. Yeah, it really has.
And was it quite a surprise then when they came to you and sort of was like, do you want to have your own show? How did you sort of respond when that offer first sort of came up?
A surprise doesn't even remotely get there to describe it. That is an understatement. So I had just told them, I had to tell them very early that I was pregnant because I had terrible morning sickness. So I just told them that I was pregnant. Now, normally you hear across the board, they're like, oh, the minute you have a baby, your career will plummet. Not necessarily. So I literally, I'd say about a month later, I got a call to say, we'd like to extend the show, we'd like you to host it. So it started off as Jeremy Vine Extra. This was over 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. Would you like to do it? And I thought, well, yeah, I'll jump at the chance. So I did that all the way up to my maternity, came back from my maternity, continued doing that. And then they were like, well, look, we're going to extend it and we'd like it to be your own show. So it was amazing.
And did it feel like a long time coming? Has it been like a goal that you've been working towards, that you felt like now you're sort of getting the recognition you maybe deserved, having worked on sort of Jeremy Vine and the right stuff previously?
Well, I never really thought about it like that. I mean, I've been on screen for 10 years. I've been working in the industry for nearly 20. So I suppose it has been a long time coming, but there's so many fabulous people in the industry that never get to this stage. So although it might be something that you want, to have your own show, I think to have it happen at all I'm very grateful for. I'm sitting here a very happy woman.
And a lot of times talk show hosts get asked sort of like, who's your favourite guest or who's been the worst guest that you've had on? So does anyone
that would be a secret that I couldn't share with you, I'm afraid.
Who's sort of been the most interesting person that you've sort of had on the panel or as a guest? Michael Mosley is just, he was an unbelievable man. He was the one person, I think, I don't really get starstruck very often with celebrities or people on TV, I think maybe because we see them so often. But Michael Mosley, you felt like you were in the presence of academia, someone super, super smart, but he didn't really carry the ego with him, so he was just such an amazing man to be around. So I think he's definitely, you put me on the spot, but he's definitely up there as one of my top guests. And were you sort of quite close with him? How was your relationship?
Well, we weren't close. He would come in as a colleague and to be interviewed about something that was coming up for him, and so I suppose my relationship with him was really professional. But on a personal level, I read his books, I enjoyed all his work, his recipes are amazing, and so on that level he was just amazing.
And Jeremy Vine and Matthew Wright that you've worked with before, how do you sort of get along with them?
Oh, great, yeah, fab.
Has he sort of taken you under his wing a little bit, Jeremy, and Matthew beforehand?
Matthew gave me the opportunity to get the job that I had. I think he had the final say, so I'm incredibly grateful to Matthew for that. And when Jeremy came along, he was very generous in terms of giving me space in the show to create my own sort of presence on the show, which is, for a presenter, incredibly generous. So I've been incredibly lucky.
And what's your relationship with Matthew like now, obviously, with him having left? Do you still keep in touch? Are you good friends?
No, I mean, I follow him on Twitter. I think he follows me on Twitter. I don't really keep in touch with him. But there's certainly no bad feeling or anything like that. I don't, he's got a baby, I've got a baby. I don't even see my friends that I grew up with regularly. So sometimes it's just hard to keep in touch.
And then one thing I wanted to ask you about, last year when Holly Willoughby left this morning, there was all these rumours that you were the front runner to replace her.
Yes, let's discuss that.
Is there any truth to that? Where did that sort of come from? Fill me in.
Jake, you probably know more than me. I've got no idea. Incredibly flattering to be put into the same sort of sphere as your Holly Willoughbys. Davina McCall was also in there, and Kat Daly. Davina McCall and Kat Daly I was watching when I was growing up. I was aspiring to be like them. So to be brought into the fold with that sort of thing is obviously incredibly flattering. But I think that Kat's a great choice.
I love Ben. So I think Kat and Ben are a great choice for this morning, and I wish them all the best.
And so did you ever get approached with any possible talks, or
no,
it was just
but it was
one
lovely
of
to
those
read
things?
about
Yeah.
it. I think that's sort of how the industry works. I think people at home, or people reading the papers, tend to know more than the individuals being discussed.
I feel like a lot of presenters get offered with loads of reality shows. Has that been the case for you? Have you ever been sort of approached for
Now,
your
you're just making
Strictly,
me
your Big
feel
Brother?
bad. No.
If the offers came up, then what would be the big reality show that you'd maybe have your eye on, if that is something you're interested in?
Well, Strictly would be amazing. Jeremy's done it, so I feel like it's my turn next. He could give me some tips on dancing.
Or maybe you might not want his tips.
I'd maybe call Karen up before I asked Jeremy. No, I mean, he is an absolute performer, Jeremy, so I'm sure he would have some helpful advice. But Strictly, definitely. I mean, who would pass up the chance to learn how to dance properly by a professional?
And have you ever sort of dealt with any like trolling? You get people, they call it mum shaming, people picking up on your parenting skills and having a go at you sort of on Instagram. Have you ever experienced any of that, and what sort of your response?
If there's, people will take any opportunity to have a go at you online for anything. I mean, for being female, for existing, for breathing. So of course they're going to have a go at you for being a mum and having a career, because you should be at home for the first 5 years till your child goes to school and do nothing but focus in on that child, and anything other than that is bad parenting. I mean, it's a nonsense. So I treat it with the contempt it deserves.
Do you ever sort of go back to any of the trolls, reply back, or do you just
give
leave
them
be?
airspace? No. Oh, occasionally I have taken a screen grab of something somebody has said and reposted that on my stories. But I wouldn't respond personally, no.
Then I think to finish up on, I'm quite intrigued to know if you could have your dream panel of guests, say 3 people, money's no object, everyone's accessible, who would be the 3 that you'd have on, and what would be your topic to talk about?
Oh, that is so interesting. And such a hard question to answer. I'm not sure I can merge them both, because your panel very much dictates what sort of debates you're going to do. So it might not be the thing that is in the headlines that day, but it's certainly on the zeitgeist of what people are talking about. But it's the thing that those 2 panellists will react best to, or will form the best debate on. If I'm talking about dream panellists, people I'd love to have on the show, I'd love to have Billy Connolly, mostly just because I'd absolutely adore to meet him. Met him once on a staircase in Glasgow in Catholic Gandolfo. I didn't meet him, I wasn't introduced, but he was on the same staircase as me.
You've had the experience.
And so I've had that experience, but I would love to sit and have a chat with him. Who else would I love to sit and have a chance? Can I pick Beyoncé?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay. So I've got Beyoncé and Billy Connolly on my panel.
What
are we talking about? Free speech. That's always an interesting debate, and those 2 I'm sure would have a lot to say. One's comedy, the other one, gets quite a lot of trolling, I suppose, as well online. So she would have a lot to say about that, and just in the context of her art. So free speech. What other things could we talk about? I suppose funding for arts. Here I am just trying to think of things that they would be very good to talk on.
They'd have their opinion on it, at least.
They would certainly have their opinion on it, yes. But topics I like to cover, I like to talk about things that are really affecting people at home. So we've done things on miscarriage, for example, and when we did that, you realise actually a lot of women feel like they can't talk about it, and just opening up those discussions, the phone lines go off the hook, because so many women have stories to tell, and we don't open up that space in society. So they are my favourite topics. I'm not sure whether Beyoncé or Billy Connolly would have much to say on that, but if we're just talking about favourite topics or things that I particularly like about the show that we do, that would be it.